Welcome back. We are talking about the latest developments on the Sarasota plan for school security. And joining us for more are Bridget Ziegler, the chair of the Sarasota School Board, Kurt Lavarello, the executive director of the School Safety Advocacy Council, and Elizabeth DeGinnis, the education reporter for the Herald Tribune. And Bridget, let me start with you and ask you, how did we get to this point where the school board made this decision to start its own police force, but it's become obvious that it's not going to be ready to be fully staffed up by the beginning of the school year?
Well, I think any time you start any new department, specifically a law enforcement department, especially as a school district, it should likely take some time. I know when it was first brought up, it seemed like a very aggressive timeline. I personally had raised concerns. The board decided to move forward, and I ultimately believe that we needed to make sure we were making sound decisions with subject matter experts, and that's why we had the meeting today.
I know that there's been some frustration that the school board has not really gotten together as a unit to talk about the latest issues in terms of the time frame. Elizabeth, where are the other school board members right now?
So I think there were a combination of personal and work commitments. There's a Florida School Boards Association conference Wednesday through Friday. I mean, I don't really feel like it's my place to say exactly where each of them are, but I think they felt because of their personal and work schedules, they couldn't attend the meeting today.
Kurt, how unusual is this? I mean, you watch this not only around Florida, but around the entire country. Are there other school districts throughout Florida right now who, I mean, everybody has the same, objectives in the same direction that they have to take? Are they getting it done?
There are a number of school districts taking varied strategies to complying with the new law passed here, and we see that Martin County, for instance, is also struggling with looking to start their own school police department. So I think under the new mandates, it's something that is rather new to the state in making sure we have officers in all the schools and the charter schools. But I was happy to see us finally sit at the table today with our law enforcement leaders in our school district and discuss some of those issues. I'm just surprised it took this long.
Bridget, watching Jess's story, I still picked up some friction between the superintendent and Sheriff Knight there about the decisions that have been made, and we didn't even talk about yet who's going to be paying for it. These two men have got to work together to make this work over the long term. Where do we stand on that?
I will start with saying I am very encouraged about what happened today. I didn't know what would happen going in, but I knew it had to happen, where we had a transparent discussion, where everyone's on the same page. There's no point in looking backwards and pointing fingers. We all have a duty and obligation and care to make the best decisions for safety and security. The community deserves that, and so I think my takeaway from today was a good thing.
What does the board in general have to do next? And we only have a couple of seconds left, but I wanted you to get started on that.
Well, so after the meeting today, Superintendent Bowden said he was going to be meeting today to draw up contracts for elementary and middle school and high school to bring to the board on the 19th.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on Sarasota school safety will continue right after the break. Welcome back. It hasn't been easy. It's been pretty darn contentious, in fact. The process of figuring out how to protect Sarasota schools in the aftermath of Parkland today, a big meeting. And joining us for more are Bridget Ziegler, the chair of the Sarasota School Board, Kurt Lavarello, the executive director of the School Safety Advocacy Council, and Elizabeth DeGinnis, the education reporter for the Herald Tribune. And Bridget, I know you want to look forward, but I'm still trying to understand how we got to this point, because as Kurt is pointing out, a lot of schools that are also doing this right now, forced to be doing this right now, are laying their plans in terms of their own police departments out in stages and not trying to do it all at one time in a very tight deadline.
Well, so a couple different things. I think I've talked to a lot of different board members around the state, and I think that the word forced, all of us were in a state of reflection after Stoneman, after Parkland. I know even before the School Safety Act was passed and signed into law, Sarasota County was already taking action and figuring out what we need to do to keep our students and staff safe. But I think ultimately it came down to some miscommunication, and that's
specifically.
Well, I mean, you know what? And that was asked before. I didn't want to add to the miscommunication by pointing fingers as who's saying what have you. But there was elements that just didn't seem they would contradict themselves. And when we're talking about something as important as not only safety and security of our students, but then building a new department, a law enforcement department within a school district without a real clear path, I thought it was not only prudent for, as a school board member, but for the community to sit around the table and figure out what our best path forward is and make sure we're all on the same page, because the implications are just far too great.
Elizabeth, I don't know if you could answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The whole issue that we dealt with a few weeks ago in terms of the text messages and the insults, did that slow down the process in terms of getting this department going?
I want to start by saying you're right. I mean, I'm hesitant to attribute any reasoning to anything because I can't speak for other people, obviously. But I think what I will say is I think that obviously kind of created the climate we were in when the internal police department was created. So I want to say the text messages came out between Sheriff Tom Knight and Eric Robinson about a week or two before the internal police department happened. And I think that there was some mistrust among some board members and then the sheriff and the cost splitting aspect that then made the internal police department look like a more viable option, as well as the cost. It was a lower cost to the district than if they continue with SROs in all schools.
All right, Kurt, you do this for a living. If the school board decided the direction was to form its own police department, what should have happened and what didn't happen?
Well, you know, creating school district police departments is not something that is so uncommon across this country and now here in Florida. We see this all over and we see it roll out typically in stages. But what we saw today with this meeting is typically what happens at the very front of those discussions. So this meeting should have happened probably day 2 when they passed the resolution or the board decision to move forward with the police department. Because what I saw today was a level of unpreparedness on behalf of the school district, not ready to move forward with what we had been told as residents that was going to be prepared and ready to go when school started. So now we're backtracking and we haven't got a solid foundation for a modified law enforcement agency. And that's troubling.
Because we're not just talking about hiring police officers and the chief, we're talking about everything that supports that, including communications and evidence rooms and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And I shared some tips with the superintendent and with other folks in the district early on the process, giving them about 15 points of things that you have to get done right now. What I heard today was we have a patch and we have Ford cars. That's the least of your worries when you're looking to start a police department, worrying about what type of cars you're going to drive.
And I just want to add to that because I know you, and I understand that if you're looking backwards, there was definitely some polarization, some elements that happened that they are where they are. And to me, as a board chair, but also as a board member, it was so paramount, and I'm just very pleased that people came to the table with their solutions, check their egos as much as possible at the door to focus on what we need to do. Because had we not had this conversation, there would never been this realization that we are way over in our heads.
Well, the other question that was unanswered today, but Jess referred to it in her story, is how is this going to be paid for? Because the sheriff said at the outset, the idea of putting a SRO in every single school, that he neither has the personnel or the budget to do so. So what's going to happen now?
And that was my concern for a multitude. I mean, there's a couple things in there. So the financial component, and I purposely said to everyone, because I really did want this to be a very productive meeting, to leave cost as the secondary component, because it's dead on arrival when everyone is talking about their budgets, and I didn't want that. I think that's where we found ourselves. We're in the predicament we're in today. But the other part is now what do we do, and the timing, because it's switching gears very late. I have all the utmost confidence in our law enforcement partners that we will find a way to do it. If anyone's going to do it fast, I'd much rather the people who have the infrastructure, the knowledge, and the capabilities to do so. But and I think they're willing. And today was a very transparent discussion, and I believe that will still continue.
Elizabeth, you did a terrific job in writing the story about today's meeting here. But one of the things that is also unanswered right now is the conversation, the back and forth between the superintendent and the sheriffs, in terms of the sheriff announcing a while back that he's going to hire his own SROs anyway at this point. And when he was asked directly, well, what are you training them for? Where are they going? He didn't seem to answer that question.
So what I know now is that he had proposed originally to the school district that he wanted to have these lower cost deputies. He calls them SRD2s. He had opened the application process. That was prior to the board looking at this internal police department. So he has continued to accept applications. I don't know for sure that he has hired people for those positions. I think some of the contention has come that are those going to be some of the same applicants that could work for the district? Is that taking away from the pool for the district? So, I mean, now if they look at having law enforcement, school resource officers in the schools at the beginning of the year, I mean, those SRD2s could now become some of those people. So I can't tell you what's going to happen.
He did say they're being hired for a reason, but he didn't specify for what.
Right, you're right. So I don't know, but I mean, since he didn't say at this meeting, it would be hard for me to say. I think that he had said he's going to ask the county to pay for them, and at this point, I think has. And then I'm not sure, but now they could step into the place of the elementary school officers.
And Kurt, so you have a number of agencies competing for the same set of aspiring police officers. You know, not only the school district, but the city it needs a bank of people, the sheriff's office. Not only that, you have other counties who are trying to attract folks. What should happen right now?
Well, obviously, yeah, it's a difficult time right now in law enforcement to even hire any officers, no less when you're trying to hire in some cases 40 officers, and you're splitting it among agencies like you said earlier. I think one of the other things, the aspects that I didn't hear come out of today's meeting, was the fact that I don't even believe, and you know, your facts will check this out, but I don't even believe the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has even certified the Sarasota School District as a law enforcement agency. So you're hiring people that are not really even coming into, quote, a bona fide police department right now, because they haven't done that approval process yet. So that plays a big, you know, big factor here.
Bridget, let me get your reaction to that.
So I have not yet, because I asked very similar questions leading up, trying to prepare for Tuesday's meeting to make it as productive as possible. I can't back it up with any documentation, but my understanding is that last week we were. Step one, again, but I'm hesitant to say that because I can't provide that.
So what does the school board need to do right now? I know people are going to conferences. I know, you know, some are on vacation in Europe right now, but it seems like, you know, you folks have a lot of work on your hands.
Absolutely, and you know, honestly, I'm a mom. I have a private sector job, but I take the school, and I'm a mom of 2 kids. I know I'm running around like crazy, but this is very important. We have to prioritize this. I recognize, and that's why when I called the meeting, I didn't make a date certain. I tried to make it in a wide range so we could work and accommodate schedules. It's indicative that we had all of our law enforcement. I understand Venice had a special meeting today, so they weren't able to be there, but they were part of the conversation, and so it has to be a priority.
Kurt, we only have a few seconds left, but I would imagine the good news today was Sheriff Knight saying one way or the other, we're not going to leave these schools uncovered.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I got the take from all of our law enforcement leaders and the district that we are going to, from this point on, make sure that our schools are covered, and that should be you know, comforting to the residents of Sarasota County right now.
And we have to leave it there. Thank you all. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the future of the Tampa Bay Rays. From trading away their biggest superstar in Evan Longoria to the ongoing debate about a new stadium in Ybor, we went to social media to hear what you think about how the Rays can salvage the franchise. And Steve says, I don't think a move to Ybor will help the Rays. Tampa St. Pete is not a baseball town. Mutt says, take them out of that division, the worst decision next to being in the American League. And Roseanne says, spend the money on quality players. I love Tropicana Field and great facility. So you're the one. John says, all a ruse by the Rays. The team does not have anything close to the financial backing to move to Ybor. The team will eventually relocate to Las Vegas. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Bridget Ziegler is the chair of the Sarasota School Board. Kurt Lavarello is the executive director of the School Safety Advocacy Council. And Elizabeth DeGinnis is the education reporter for the Herald Tribune.